Today I'm going to introduce some Korean martial art history in combination with practice as well. Probably you are more interested in practice. So, so first we are going to start talking about Korean martial art history, and then later we have some little break. Then the Korean martial art Sibpalki demonstration team will show you traditional martial arts. The main topic today I want to share with you is about the comprehensive illustrated manual of martial arts. So in Korean, it's called Muvedobotongii. Have you ever heard of this manual? So here, like a mostly Korean studies student, or yes. Then, before entering, I just want to ask you, let's see, Korean martial arts. What do you have in mind when you heard this Korean martial arts, and what it reminds you? What reminds you? Taekwondo, yeah. Okay, and anything else? In Korea, there are many different types of martial arts. Taekwondo or Hapkido, Dangsudo, these days Haedongseomdo, and what else? Taekyon, Hwarangdo, Buksul. So there are many different types of martial arts. But I just want to make a point. Those martial arts are, we can say, modern style of martial art. So today I'm going to talk is about, let's say, pre-modern. So before Japanese occupation. So you know the Japanese occupation. From what year to what year?
We didn't learn about it.
Oh, okay, you didn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from 1910 to 45. Wow, yeah, that's good. So 35 years. So before this Japanese rule or occupation, then you encounter this manual inevitably. So now, but personally, actually, from very young age, I have had this question: can you learn martial arts through books? Maybe, did you have this kind of question, similar question, or maybe everybody has some kind of question in your life, but this is for me, very young. And then, but I didn't realize at that time. Later I noticed why I was so much passionate by martial arts. So I really want to become a martial artist. And, later I realized it's Hong Kong martial arts film. So in the 70s, 80s, and it was very much popular. You know Bruce Lee? Yeah. And Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and maybe you know the television series Kung Fu. So, and I really want to become a martial artist. And I knew if I want to become a martial artist, then I need a manual. So do you know the martial arts film that they are fighting against to get this secretive the martial arts book manual, and then they got it. Then they learn martial arts through these books, and then become a really good martial artist, and then they revenge themselves on old enemies. And so this story really fascinated. And so for me, when I was very young, then martial arts makes you become a superhero. So my journey to looking for martial arts book started, and then finally I got 2 martial arts manuals. So after asking my parents for several years, and then I got 2. So you will see this is my secretive martial arts manual. These 2. It's a little bit combination of Chinese characters and Korean, so Can you read it? The Chinese martial arts and the kung fu, yeah, kung fu, yeah. And Gyobon is a textbook, and here Shaolin, Sorin Guan, so Shaolin Chen. So I got these two manuals, and literally I studied day and night. Yeah, so I studied, I taught myself, and you know it should be secretive, so I didn't tell anybody I'm learning martial arts. And then I imagined, oh, someday I will show my tremendous kung fu techniques to my friends, and wait, and then so this is what I studied. So I imitate these postures and the read and try. But after 1 week, I gave up with the conclusion that learning martial arts through books is impossible. So actually today's lecture, now I finished. So the answer is no. First to start, can you learn martial arts through books? The answer is no. From my the real experience, then it's impossible. But it's not that much easy in your life. Then always the answer is not like a yes or no. Maybe there are some between this gray area. So now I'm going to share this gray area. So after this trial, I still wanted to learn martial arts or become a martial artist. But in Korea, as you know, it's very difficult to enter the university. So I had to study a lot. And then after entering university, I met a real martial arts teacher. So I had a chance to learn martial arts from him. So his name is Kim, and he is considered as a successor of this. This is the old martial arts manual. Is there anybody who can read these characters? Then I will ask Professor Broker to give you a high credit. Yeah. Oh yeah. So that you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's classical Chinese, but in Korea, in the past, we used the classical Chinese as well. This is Muvedobotongii. So the title literally means comprehensive illustrated manual of martial arts. So I learned martial arts from my teacher and in relation with this manual. So I had the chance to how to read this manual and how it executed these techniques. So you can see the techniques like this. So classical Chinese and the postures, techniques. So if you read the characters and then combine with this drawing, then you can figure out, possibly. So, and in this manual, then you can see this kind of different martial arts. So, first, moon saber, and this shear technique, and the flex spear, thorny spear, of course, bare hand techniques, some grappling as well, and the horse riding technique as well. So all different martial arts. So then, now this is the contents of the Muwedohotongii. So it's compiled in 1790, so late 18th century in Korea. So at that time it's Joseon Dynasty. This book is composed of 4 books. So volume 1, you can see some kind of introductory part, the history of military affairs, biographies of Qi Jiguang. Qi Jiguang is a Chinese general, so he wrote the martial arts manual, and this Korean manual is influenced by his manual. So here, and Qi Jiguang and the other general, his name is Mao Yuanyi, and Q&A section and references. So this is introductory part. And then the main martial arts, then long spear, bamboo spear, flat spear, trident, spear on horseback, thorny spear, and volume 2. Look carefully, I will give you a question later. The double-handed saber, sharp saber, Japanese sword, sword combat, and volume 3, admiral sword, Silla sword, twin swords on horseback, moon saber on horseback, shield. Volume 4, fist low, the barren technique, step, flare on horseback, polo, acrobat on horseback. So, you know, all together in total, then 24 skills. So, I'm asking you, is there anybody who finds some interesting features from this list? Yeah.
Japanese sword. I thought the Japanese sword came from Korea.
Oh yeah, yes. Later I will explain. So one point, yeah, Japanese sword. And is there anything?
Acrobat on horse.
Yeah, acrobat on horse. Okay. And anybody else? Yeah.
Is there any reason why archery is missing?
Oh yeah, that's this good point too. Okay. Any other features? Did you find any other interesting features? I'm waiting for the right answers.
Guessing the thorny spear is kind of odd.
Yeah.
What is a thorny spear?
Thorny spear is this is thorny spear, the third person, the bamboo, long bamboo. We have, but we couldn't bring from Korea. It's not allowed to take in the airplane. So it's the bamboo and then little blades on the branches, and then you put some poison there. So you use this 4 meters long, approximately. Okay, now let's the main features of the Japanese sword. Here, the many martial arts go and come. So in this list, some martial arts from Japan, and some martial arts from Korea to China, or from China to Korea. So at that time, it was very much common because martial arts are part of military science at that time. Then once you had battles or war, then it affects each other. So that is very common, like today. So Japanese is not strange here, Japanese sword, because 임진왜란, Japanese invasion, 1592. So that was the starting of this compilation of this manual. So later I will explain that one. So Japanese martial arts, the swordsmanship, with that reason here. So Koreans want to adopt Japanese martial art system as well. But more important thing in this manual, as I said, altogether 24 martial arts, but archery is, we can say, archery is a long range of weapon. So it reach far. But these are all short range weapons. And this martial arts manual, especially for this short range weapons, and then usually before Muvedobotongii, then the categorization is 2 ways: long range weapon and short range weapon. But now most weapons are become short. Late 18th century, then the main weapon is musket, so firearms. So compared to firearms, then most are just a short range weapon. So here they don't put the archery here. So instead all the short weapons, and then again because this is many different type of short range weapons, you need a new category. So what I want to say, and I try to give you some hint, so to make the two same colors. So volume 1 is mostly what? Spear. So thrust technique. So the Muvedobotongii authors made this categorization. So thrust weapons they put together in volume 1. And then volume 2 and 3 are what kind of weapon? Sword. So cutting. And then volume 4 is for strike technique. So fist low is a barren technique, is mostly the striking techniques, kicking, and then flare or step. So these three categories: thrust, slash, cutting, and strike. So three categories. Then just one more question: why the other techniques are only one volume, and then sword techniques are two volumes? So if we see, we just saw the picture. These 4 or 5 books, the last one is Korean translation. So the main volumes are these 4. Why swordmanship? There are so many swordmanship, sword skills there. So one more question: why?
Maybe because you can, and with one hand or with two hands, maybe?
I will show you the 2 hands later. As I said, this is compiled in the late 18th century. So just imagine late 18th century, what happened at that time? Then actually firearms becoming more main weapons. So all the weapons, so the importance is decreased. But still, sword techniques are you need it because you use this musket first, and then all the other weapons are inconvenient. Only the sword you carry sword. So in a distance you use a musket, and then you use sword. So swords are important weapons at this time. At the time. And now we are going to look into this book manual more thoroughly. So this is one chapter, so Bonguk. Literally, Bonguk means like our country, but I translate is Silla. You know Silla kingdom, the 3 kingdoms. So in the contents, then they mention this Silla dynasty, and these authors of Muvedobotongii, they want to connect this swordsmanship to ancient kingdom Silla. So I just translate it as Silla Sword. Then so every chapter has the same structure. First part, introduction. So origins of the certain martial arts and the history, those kind of things. And then second part, individual techniques. So what kind of skills or postures, and the next, so that kind of explanation as followed. And then third, complete diagram. So the whole, this is in Japanese you call it like a kata. So start certain form, and then next technique, and then finish. So this complete diagram, and then more interestingly, complete chart. Then this chart has reduced scale. So if you compare this posture of each character, then you can tell how many steps go further, and you can measure the distance. So it's based on the reduced scale. But just one more thing, this kind of martial arts manual at that time, you cannot find in any other place. So Japan, there are many martial arts, and even in this Europe, the historical martial arts, there are a lot, and there are a lot of martial arts manuals. But this format is very unique, and actually very clear to see if you have a little knowledge about martial arts. But now it looks like the drawing or picture book or drawing book. So, as I said, this is very important manual, and last week I think this Muvedobotongii was registered as a World Heritage of UNESCO by North Korean government. The most work done by South Korea. So my major, the doctorate thesis is about this Muvedobotongii, and then most practitioners are in South Korea, but somehow North Korean government took this opportunity and then they applied for this award, but that's okay. Anyway, but 30 years ago, 1987, this master, let's call him Master Kim Kwang-seo. He was the first man who introduced this martial arts to the public. Then, before that, everybody mentioned this manual. When we started this lecture, then I asked you about Korean martial arts. So you named many martial arts. Actually, I did. Taekwondo, Hapkido, even Komdo, Haedong-Komdo, Taekyon, all Korean martial arts, they claim, oh, our martial arts is like rooted to this manual, originated from this manual, and they claim. So they emphasize their authenticity through this manual. But actually, if you ask them, oh yeah, that's great. Then can you explain how this technical aspect connected to the modern form? Then probably you won't get answer. So they claim, but it's not well known what it is exactly. So this Master Kim was the first man who introduced them to the public. So by publishing this practical analysis of Muvedobotongii. And same year, he had a performance with his students in December 22 and 23rd, 1987. Most of you were born at the time, or a little bit earlier? Yeah, okay. And then after this, it becomes more popular, and then many people can talk about this martial arts and then try to reconstruct. And so let's say this person, Master Kim, is successor of Muvedobotongii, and maybe we can call him traditionalist. So he tried to keep these traditions and transmit to the modern world. This is one story. There's another story. Before another story, I just want to, after this introduction, 1987, after that, here, me as well, and the Buddhist monk, Mumun, and other students, they were inspired this introduction, and then they tried to learn him. And then in the university, they started the club activity. So there are many Sibpalki clubs, and then it becomes more traditional movement. So it triggers in many, especially early the 90s, and it becomes really like a, in a way, nationalistic atmosphere combined. But so usually university has students have a lot of questions. And he got the same question or similar question every time, so he decided, oh, I'd better write book instead of repeating same answers. So he wrote Secrets of Classical Fist Method, 1992, and Bonguk, Korean Classical Swordsmanship, 1995, and Fundamental Guide to Korean Spear and Step, so 2002. So these are kind of fundamental basic materials to study this classical martial art. So hopefully you just try to read about it. And then, so now I introduce another story. There's a man, his name is Dong-gyu, so let's call him just Master Lin. Can you tell the difference? Master Kim and Master Lin. He was in jail, and he was serving double lifetime sentences due to his involvement of political issues. And then, you know, you have a double lifetime sentences, then what can you do in the jail? So he was, accidentally he encountered this Muvedobotongii. And then he thought, oh, it's nice. We have this martial arts. And then in jail, he started learning himself. And then he taught his fellow prisoners, so, with using a broomstick as a training weapon. And then after the new democratic government started, and then he was set free. And then he decided to dedicate himself in martial art teaching when he came back to society. Now you have two very interesting case: the Master Kim and the Master Lim. Both are claiming the Muvedobotongii. So one is there is a succession of the Muvedobotongii, and then one is a reconstruction of Muvedobotongii. So this is a very interesting case. And you know, in Europe here, there are many historical martial arts practitioners. Have you ever heard of it? So here, so Asian martial arts came to Europe in 70s, 60s, 70s. Then it triggers European people. Oh, there's a martial arts from Asia. Then don't we have our own martial arts traditions? So that was the first step. And then they tried to find. They found a lot of historical manuals, and they tried to build up their own martial arts tradition. So there are now there are many different groups trying to build up this reconstruct traditional European martial arts. So they call it HEMA, so historical European and martial arts. Don't be confused with the short HEMA. More clearly, I will explain. So first started the martial arts compilation in Korea, then 1598. It's related to Korean, Japanese invasion to Korea 1592. So when Japanese invaded Korea at that time, Korea had the long distance weapon system and the cavalry, based on cavalry, because the main threat was from the north, the Jurchen. The Jurchens ride horse. So to counter this threat, then Korea had to adopt the same kind of method. So in a distance, they use firearms, and then archery, and then the close combat, then they chase after with on horse. So similarly, but when Japanese attacked Korea, Joseon at the time, then Japanese had musket from Portugal. So before that time, then Joseon had advantage in because of the Korean archer bow and arrow reach further. So in a distance, we can control the Japanese the army, but now they have musket. So they have advantage in the musket. They use in a distance use musket, and then in a close combat, then Japanese use sword, and they were very famous in swordmanship already at that time. So that was the reason Korean had like a successive defeats. And then even in 20 days, the capital city collapsed. And King Seonjo and his cabinet had to run away all the way to the border of Korea and China. So, and then the Chinese military involved. So at that time, this Chinese military, I will show you later. So that was the starting of compilation of Korean martial arts manuals. And the first one, illustrated manual of martial arts, so Muvedobotongii in 1598. And then right after, they translated sequel to illustrated manual of martial arts, 1610. It's compiled. And then there's another new illustrated manual of martial arts, 1759. But this manual is not found yet. And then now we're talking about comprehensive illustrated manual of martial arts, 1790. And then for this manual, then there's another Chinese manual of Beijing, so 1621, the Treatise on Armament Technology. So these are very important martial arts manuals in East Asian history. I just said the third manual is not exist. The new illustrated manual of martial arts not exist. But if we compare all these existing manuals, then you can figure out the contents of the third manual. So it's a very interesting case. I would call it archaeology of martial arts. So these martial arts, almost same, and then new martial arts are added. So you can follow how the martial arts develop in this country, Korea. So you can follow this development and then even compare the old style and then a little bit modern style, the later stage. Then, so the timeline is from late 16th century to late 18th century, almost 200 years. And the expansion of art. In the beginning, the first manual had 6 martial arts, and then later added, and then it become officially 18 martial arts. So that's the reason why they call it Sibpalki. You hear, you study Korean, so Sibpal means 18. So Ki means art or skills, so Sibpalki. And these martial arts are, we call it Korean martial arts manuals, but in the beginning we mentioned martial arts are, each country influence each other. So here, in this manual, then you see Japanese martial arts tradition as well, Chinese as well. Which means, if you start from here, this point, actually you can trace back their origins as well. So this is very important and interesting. You compare all these martial arts and how to affect each other. But these days, or modern times, then more emphasis on their own tradition, the nationalistic atmosphere. Then they started calling Korean martial art or Japanese martial art, or Chinese martial art. And these days, still they're fighting. But actually, most martial arts are share this knowledge together. So now, first illustrated manual of martial arts, 1598. There are 6 martial arts: shield, thorny spear, long spear, trident, staff, long saber. So why there are these 6 martial arts there? Then these are from this Mandarin dog formation. Have you ever heard of this Mandarin dog formation? Or do you know Mandarin dog then? Lacquer. Mandarin dog is famous for the harmony between the male and female. So they get along well, going around all together. So in Korea, when you get married, then we congratulate or with this expression, oh, live like the Mandarin dog. Then which means get along well together for the rest of your life. Means literally comes from this meaning. And then in this formation, then why do they use this Mandarin dog? Then 12 people are one unit. And every, the front line and the second line like a backup, the front line. So they help each other together. But this military law, if the team leader died, then all the other members will get a death penalty. So you have to protect your team leader, and then the front liner, one died, then the next one, who is supposed to protect him, so he will get death penalty. So Mandarin dog itself is very romantic, but in reality is not romantic at all. You have to be very much alert. Oh, I have to protect my my colleague. So help each other should be. But if you win, then you will get paid, but you share all together. Nice, huh? And this formation then first is a team leader with a flag, and the two first men are shields, and the next two are thorny spears, and the next four are long spears. So these long spears are main attackers in this formation, and then the last two are trident. And these martial arts, in late 16th century, they have to adopt from Chinese troops. And the first manual is about this martial art. Okay, let's see. Then they have a criteria. What kind of people or what type of people can be chosen for this formation? Then first the shield, then young and middle-sized body with a high flexibility. So they have to cover with this shield. So not big person, relatively smaller is easier, and they roll around and cover, so higher flexibility is needed. And the second one, thorny spear, then is a defender and a middle-aged man. Usually middle-aged, and you know you through all the life, so more like calm and brave. So that is it's common, and interestingly big face. So if you have a big face, then intimidating for the opponent, enemies. And the bigger body.
Describe the Muwedohotongii like that.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And with a great strength for this man. And attacker, the long spear, then strong mentality, because these men are mainly have to kill the opponents, and they say bone strength. And the dangpa, the trident, then the moderate spirit and fearlessness. So they have to deal with the. But don't worry, you can join this formation even though you are not belong to this any of these things, because here the last one is mediocre and obedient, so willing to become a subordinate. He is a cook and a porter, so he carries every stuff, and so you can contribute in this role as well. So Mandarin dog formation, then this main combatant, then 10. So you just saw team leader, so he is included in this here. The defender, first 4 men are defender, and 4 spearmen are main attacker, and the backup man. Then, in this manual, you see all this routine form. then you can see the first one, the on top is shear. Then they move these different postures in a sequential form. And then, do you remember the first one shear, and the next one is thorny spear? So every individual technique you practice individually. But actually, if you combine together, then you can see clearly. Look, the first part, thorny spears now take a lower position, and then, shear take a lower position, and thorny spear higher position. So when you use a thorny spear in the upper part, then the shear cover lower part, because the lower part now is weak. So this technical aspect, usually these days you practice the solo form, then okay, it's a combination, you're practicing combination technique. But in this martial art system, it's not only about yourself as well as in combination with others. So as I just explained, this you have to back up and you have to protect your team members. So this training method is related to. So these are, and then the next line, the thorny spear and the long spear as well. And now I will show you more clearly. Then this is the routine form, part of routine form. Then the upper part is a long spear. Then first posture, and then you move all the way there, and then turn back. Then the lower part is trident. Can you see the similarities? So the same way, start and then all the way go, and then in the same position, then turn back. So actually when they practice all together, then this one is consecutively, they together, move together. So so for this purpose, then these martial arts manuals are compiled. And then the next manual.
That was the reason for the Mandarin duck formation. So why did they develop
Mandarin duck formation is mainly for Japanese. So even in China, then there were a lot of Japanese pirates, the southern coastal area, and they were very good at sword technique. So this sword technique, then at that time, Ming China, the Chinese soldiers, they couldn't fight against the Japanese. So General Qi, he developed this Mandarin duck formation. So in other way, man-to-man fight, the Chinese cannot beat Japanese. Then what he did, make this team. So one unit, and then this team play. With this team play, they counter-attack the Japanese, and then it works well. You know, one member is died, and all the others will be killed, or all these kinds of things. They have to really fight, and then so it works well. So that's the reason Korean government want to adopt this system. And then all these martial arts manuals are all about this in the beginning, the Mandarin duck formation. And then the next one, after this first manual, compilation of first manual, and then they realized there was no basic part. So usually when you learn martial arts, then start from bare hand techniques. So in this second manual, they added this bare hand techniques, one ball. And there's another martial art, Blue Dragon Moon Saber. So these are Blue Dragon Moon Saber. And the left side step with the black teeth and the Japanese sword. So previous manual, then only the solo form of Japanese sword, and then now they are the partner training form, so added. And then 1759, the new illustrated manual of martial arts. So here, 6 martial arts of Muvedobotongii and 12 martial arts added. So bamboo spear, flag spear, and the Yedo, Admiral sword, or these kinds of things. And then they named Sibpalki, so 18 martial arts. And then this 18 martial arts is not an general noun, it's now the proper noun, the generic term. There, the 요단편 황화, so 황화 is literally means yellow flower. So that's the reason this Douglas Wire translated chrysanthemum, but doesn't make sense in this context. Suddenly come up 황화, yellow flowers. So he tried like a yellow flowers, presses closely, then doesn't come to me clearly. But this Hwanga is the name of a character in Ming Dynasty, like a novel. It's how can I say? It's similar to Harry Potter. So at that time it was very popular. So Hwanga is a man who used two hands at the same time. Of course, in the novel. So let's say like this: right hand you write down Chinese character, and with the left hand you write down the English at the same time. So Hwanga can do this. And there's another man. His name is Jiangsu, and Jiangsu can sing a song at one time. Can sing two songs at one time. So if you sing songs and two people are here, and then they hear like maybe English song, and one is a Dutch song or whatever. So it's not real person, but in the novel, like kind of fantasy. So General Chijigang took this man because this technique you use both hands simultaneously in a different way. So he took this Hwanga as a kind of example.
The metaphor.
Yeah, metaphor. So so when you you want to reconstruct, or at least you want to understand these manuals, then actually you have to figure out in many different from many different approach. So literature, or even the next one. Profound fragrance posture, but this one Chinese is Chenxiang. The Chenxiang is like two different meaning. So one is so it has some meaning of fragrance. Chinese herb, there's a Chenxiang, and this herb has a very strong smell, and but here it doesn't. It's nothing to do with this smell, fragrance. It's a name of kind of name of God. So his mother was arrested somebody and under the mountain. So he break this mountain to rescue his mother. So it's the name of person, Chenxiang. And this technique is you use both hands and like a kind of a hammer strike. So he took this Chenxiang as a metaphor as well. So if you try translate it literally, then it doesn't match with the content. So this is the problem with reconstruction. And this one just one more like a sharp sword form in Muvedobotongii, but it comes from Chinese manual Wu Beizhi in 1621. When Korean authors of Muvedobotongii, when they compile, then late 18th century, they already have this kind of sword forms, but they realized they can trace back this 1621 Chinese manual. There is an original the record, so they compare, and it comes from that original records. So they recorded both. So in this manual, then many things are like put together. So historical aspect. So if you go through this, then you can see the like old manuals, and then the changes, the more the newer form. So you can trace back all this. And just one more thing. So now we're talking about the ancient martial arts, and then how they, why did they compile this Muvedobotongii? And one of the reasons is for test. So around the Seoul, capital city, then the king, there are like 5 different military camps. So they were tested in front of king, and then king noticed why these people were doing the same thing in a different way. And then they, I used to practice like this. So these differences he noticed, and then tried to make it unify them all. So the manual, one of the main aims is to make a standardization of the art. To just imagine like you have a military, and then they all do the different things, then it doesn't make sense to fight against the enemies. So we have 2 examples according to this martial arts development in Korea. So one is kind of the real transmission, the person to person. So we have this tradition, and some group of people are try to reconstruct. But in the beginning, they are having a lot of mistakes. As I said, the length issues and the content, how to understand, and but in a way, this the efforts from a reconstruction group, and then now they appreciate it. So because it opens your eyes, you can approach the historical martial arts record in more from a diverse angle. So it helps. Actually, even though you have this transmission, there's a lot of things are not well documented. So you have to try reconstruct in a way. So we'll be like this. Sometimes like you are like a nationalistic approach, then there are some one line of transmission, and then you're now a lot of practitioners are here, and then you want to go back some kind of origin. You're looking for where does it come from, and one point you are looking for this one point, but actually that doesn't exist like that. So I prefer what we know about the historical martial art, then we have to admit we know very little at this moment. And then we go back, and then historical circumstances at that time is much more wider. As I just explained, the literature and all kinds of things are involved. You cannot understand without this the extra diverse knowledge. So you have to be open in this respect. So what I'm going to say in here, the martial arts traditions we have in Korea, and there are many different ways of the effort to appreciate this martial arts. Then maybe we need both ways. So why not? This tradition we try to develop this the personal tradition or heritage, and at the same time the approach of the reconstructionist, the more open to possibilities, various possibilities. So maybe if we combine all together, then our understanding of martial art or our history will be more wider. So that's what I want to say today. Thank you.